Hi, my name is Danny Wells, and I am going to do a training today on one of the laws by Raymond Holliwell. I'm absolutely loving this book, recommended to me by Fiona McCarthy. Her copy looks nothing like mine because it's been read that many times. It's completely thumbed through, which is great. And it's got 11 different laws, if you like. Think of the law of attraction, which is one of them. And I'm going to train today on the law of thinking. So I'm just going to screen share because I've made a PowerPoint to go through this training because I just think it's just so interesting. I wanted to share this with you guys. So we're going through the law of thinking today. So I'm going to start with, skipped. As man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Proverb 23:7. So I thought that was quite important to put into this, and it's how the book starts with this particular law. So to the average person, life is a mystery, a complex, incomprehensible problem, or that's how it appears to them anyway. All things, regardless to what they are mysterious until when they are not understood. So basically, things that aren't understood are mysterious to us. And when we understand them, or when we understand life, it will stop being a mystery. Humans are creatures of constant growth. We thrive on constantly growing. And our ruling state of mind is made up of various mind or mental attitudes. So in our mind, we've got all these different attitudes going on. And those attitudes, which we as individuals adopt towards things, so events and life in general. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about that. So what is a ruling state of mind? So like I was saying, our mind is made up of all these different attitudes. And the best way that I can describe this is if you imagine in your head, you've got all these different people. If you've seen the recent Disney film, I can't think what it's called now, Inside Out, where there's little people inside people's heads that rule different emotions. So hunger, naughty, bored, angry, fun, joy, fear, all these different things. So imagine in your head you've got all these different people that are all different emotions, and only one of those emotions can be center stage at one time. And that emotion, that feeling that is on the center of the stage, so there's only one at one time, that is the ruling state of mind. So if anger is on stage, then anger is what's going to be controlling your mind towards things that happen. If happiness is on the stage taking control, then that's going to be on the stage controlling things that happen to you. So you might have the exact same incident happen. So say you're driving and someone cuts across you, and if your stage has got anger on it, when that person cuts across you, you're going to be really cross about that because that's your ruling state of mind, and that's how you're going to react to that situation. Whereas if your happy emotion is on the stage and someone cuts you up in the car, you're probably not going to be too phased. You'll be like, oh well, these things happen. So whatever emotion is on that stage, that is what rules your world at that time. So our leading mental state always determines the direction of how people proceed. So exactly like that example of, if we're frustrated, if something happens when we're driving our car. Attitudes are the results of ideas, and these have their origin in points of view. So by finding the true and natural points of view, we can make sure we have the best and most superior ideas so that we will determine the overall state of mind. So basically, our attitude, which again, going back to that person that's on the stage, functions our behavior, how we react. So it's a two-way street because then our behavior then affects the attitude to who we have on that stage at that one point. Some people think that is just the five senses that are the facts that we can accept. But more people are realizing that what we believe is what will determine what we see. So in other words, believing is seeing. So more defeats and failures are due to mental blindness. If someone lives only by physical sight, his world would be very small. So imagine never seeing America in person and not believing it exists because you only believe what you have seen. So a lot of people used to believe that if they had seen it, heard it themselves, smelt it themselves, spoke of it themselves, and touched it themselves, then it exists. But anything else wouldn't exist. But obviously, we all know that is completely not true. Seeing is believing. If someone was to live according to the senses, the largest sense we possess is sight. So our whole world would extend only as far as we could see. If we believed in this, the eyes, then we would have to accept many conditions that are not true. So, for example, if you look at a railway track, in the distance, the tracks would merge at one point. Same with a ship sailing into the distance. At the horizon, it will seem to our eyes that it falls off the edge of the sea. When you're worried over some obstacle or problem, just remind yourself that it may be purely an illusion of the senses, that it may not be true at all according to this law. Interesting. Did you know that you don't even see with your eyes? So your eyes are actually like a pair of windows. At the back of the window, there is a reflector, and this reflector forms an image of what you see, and it sets up a wave current. And this is really interesting for me because obviously this is taking me back to my ophthalmology background. This wave current follows along thin wires called nerves, which relays the image back to the brain. And here at the brain, it is referred to in the memory center. So think of this like your library full of photos. If the picture is a common one, our memory will accept it really quickly. You know, it's like when we walk through the front door, we already know what our house looks like because it's in our memory centers, in our library, in our head. So we don't need to have a really good look around our house to remember where the stairs are, where's the bathroom, because we already have that banked in our head. We know where it is. But if we're looking at something new, a new picture, a new scene, our memory doesn't recognize it. So like walking into somebody else's house, we wouldn't instantly know where everything was, and we have to look several times to remember where things are. So that's where we're having to repeat the picture over and over many times until it makes a lasting impression. So therefore, we really don't see with our eyes, we see with our mind. So if you're worried about a problem, so going back to what I said a moment ago, it could be an illusion of the eyes or the mind. So moving on now, thought is a force or a substance as real as electricity, heat or light. Although thought is invisible to the physical sight, it is an actual force as real as electricity, light, heat, water or even stone. Scientists tell us that thought is compared with the speed of light. They tell us our thoughts travel at a rate of 186,000 miles per second, which is flipping mad. So our thought travels 930,000 times faster than the sound of your voice, which probably makes sense actually because our thoughts are all over the place, aren't they? No other force or power in the universe yet known is as great or as quick. It is a proven fact scientifically that the mind is a battery of force, the greatest force of any known element. So successful thoughts are on a high frequency. So thoughts of all types are on a level frequency, and successful thoughts are on a high frequency. So you can see there the first picture, and they're on a much higher frequency. And you can normally feel that, you know, when you feel yourself being quite successful, you normally feel your vibrations are quite constant and you're on quite high, but it's very euphoric. Unsuccessful thoughts and entitlement thoughts are all on a low frequency. So like that bottom one, which again is like plodding along, woe is me, the world's against me, that kind of thing. And you can tell when you talk to somebody that's successful compared to somebody that is, you know, I'm entitled to things and the government owes me this much. And, you know, people that say it's payday when really they're just getting government handouts. So that's the low frequency wave. So the frequency that your thoughts are on will, without fail, attract people on the same frequency into your life. Okay, that's really important. So if you're attracting a certain type of person into your life and you don't like it, that's because you're on the same frequency and you need to change that, which you can do. So you either need to keep people there or move away from people. Make sure you surround yourself with people on the frequency that you want to be on. Move away from people on the frequency that you don't want to serve you or your family. So if you're wanting to create more income for you, your partner and your children, but you're spending a lot of time with people on low frequencies, you're going to constantly attract that into your life. So you're going to have to step away from that and spend less time with people on a lower frequency to you. Love them for where they are, but put you and your family first and go and spend time with people on a high frequency that are going to pull you up to that level so that you can bring into your life what it is that you want. What the mind holds within takes its form in the outer world. So successful minded people help success come to them. This is how successful living is founded. People who dwell on thoughts of failure or poverty will gravitate towards similar conditions. So they, in turn, will be drawn to those people who accept failure and poverty. And we see this all the time on social media. We see this, people that are on social media complaining about their lack of material items, their lack of income, their lack of free time. Yeah, the people that are commenting on that are the people that are in the exact same boat. So they're drawn to people of the same type. On the other hand, we can think on positive conditions, so on success and plenty, and in the same manner enjoy full and plenty. So think of somebody really successful that you know. It might be somebody you don't even know that well, but you go on the school run and you see them obviously doing well. Do they spend a lot of time with people that are on lower frequencies to them? And again, woe is me and entitlement thoughts and not very self-developed type of thoughts. No, they don't. They spend more time getting on with more successful habits, making these better decisions and moving towards what they want to be doing. So basically, we attract into our life exactly the same vibrations that we put out, like a boomerang. So think of yourself when you're out and about tomorrow as a magnet or a boomerang, and you're going to attract into your life exactly the same vibrations that you're on. So before you complain, instead ask, what did I do to attract this into my life? And how can I work on my frequency and vibrations to attract something better next time? And this is something that I do now. So every time something annoys me, I'm like, what did I do to do that? What did I do to attract that? What did I do to help towards that happening? Rather than thinking, that person, they are so irritating. Now I completely spin it on its head and ask, what did I do to contribute towards that happening? So we can change our vibrations and frequency if we want to make improvements to what is in front of us now and for the future. So to attract the good, we must do away with the bad. This is false. Now, a lot of people would think this. They're like, okay, well, if we want to have good in our lives, we just need to get rid of the bad. So to get the good, it isn't a case of just removing the bad, such as when surrounded by cold. When you walk into your house, we can't just pick up the cold, put it outside and be left with warmth. We have to build a fire, or obviously if we're indoors, put the heating on. And as we gather around that fire or room with the radiator, we enjoy the heat and we become warm. And as we build up warmth, the cold disappears. The cold is the absence of heat, and heat is now with us. So to be warm, we give our whole thought to those things which tend to create warmth. We ignore the cold and instead just think of the warmth. You know, while the room's getting warmer, there will be little cold patches as it starts to disappear. We don't focus on those thinking, oh, this little bit of patch is cold. We start to focus on the warmth, like, oh, it's warming up in here, lovely now. So prosperity and poverty, so rich or poor, are not two things. They are just two sides of one and the same thing. They are one power, rightly or wrongly used. So think of it as a coin. You've obviously got two sides to a coin, but they're part of one thing. So hot and cold are one thing, but they're just opposite sides of the coin. So prosperity and poverty are the same. So being rich or poor is one coin. It's which side we are on. Are we on the prosperity side or the poverty side? We choose, we decide by the actions that we take and the attitudes and our ruling state of mind. We get to make that decision every single day. So nature does not differentiate between the seed of a weed and that of a flower. Nature produces and causes both seeds to grow. The same energy is used for both. This is the same as the mind. The mind creates either good or bad, and it's your ideas determine which is to be created. Our fears can do so much to us that we should be careful what we fear and worry about. The world is realizing now that if we feed our fears and give them focus and nourish them, nurture them, give them lots of attention and cement them as true, it will make them grow. It will make our fears grow. So don't nurture and nourish, feed and fertilize fears or anything that you don't want in your life. Don't give it the time of day. Whatever we think in our minds must grow. So why do you think a farmer goes out to weed his garden and works tediously to eliminate every weed? It's because he knows that if he does not clean out the weeds, they will grow stronger and tougher and suffocate his good crop. If we have a condition that affects us moving forwards, perhaps a weed in our life, that must be plucked out. It is important to know that the condition is the effect that we see. It is not the true cause that we see. Dig down deep into the mental storehouse and find out what is that cause. Weed out the cause by replacing it with the right kind of thought. So that is, if it is fear, replace it with courage. So if you're scared of roller coasters, get your bum on a roller coaster, do it several times over, and by the end you won't be scared of roller coasters anymore because you've replaced that fear with courage. If it's disease, replace it with healthy thoughts. So if you're plagued with colds all the time, keep thinking positive, healthy thoughts, and then you're going to naturally gravitate towards healthier living, healthier daily essentials anyway. So you're replacing it. If it is a limited thought, think thoughts of plenty. Then, as we replace the thoughts that are as weeds, they will die of their natural selves. For such weeds die from lack of cultivation. So you've only got to think back to your childhood, something that worried you as a child. Maybe little Molly May said something that upset you when you were in reception, and you didn't dwell on that throughout your childhood and your teenage and your adult life. So you didn't give it the time of day. So that died from lack of cultivation because it stopped being an issue, stopped thinking about it. You know, there's going to be so many issues that would have happened when you were younger that you've not nourished and fed. And that's the same as when you're an adult. Don't nourish and feed these bad things that happen. Just replace them with good things. So as long as we allow things to seem real to us, we are putting energy into it. We are nurturing it. We are feeding it. We are keeping it alive. We are putting our faith into that thing. Whether we like it or not, it must grow. The law of growth is always working to produce whatever seed we plant. So if we're putting a seed into our minds, we're going to make it grow if we keep focusing on it. If someone was to drop, this is really interesting as well. So there's a story in the book of two lads at uni, and one of them has an initiation test. So what he does is he drops hot candle wax onto his friend, but the friend doesn't know it's hot candle wax. He is told it's a hot iron. And hot candle wax, it won't burn you, but a hot iron will. And so he told his friend it was a hot iron. He was going to imprint this on his back or his arm. I can't remember exactly on his body. And the guy believed it was a hot iron because why wouldn't he? That's what he was told. And when the candle wax was placed on him and then pulled away, the guy looked and he had a massive burn on him because he thought it was a hot iron. Candle wax doesn't burn you, not like a hot iron would, and it left a hot iron type burn. And that's because his mind said to himself, this is a hot iron, because that's what he was told. Isn't that really mad that your mind can be that controlling? So moving on from that story, a person is constantly thinking. He can change his thought, but he cannot stop thinking. This thinking power flows in and through him like the very air that we breathe. The problem then is to direct this power of thinking into constructive channels of expression. It is a scientific fact that no power can act without producing some kind of an effect. And by merely thinking, we are continually producing effects. These effects register and record in daily life. Are we controlled by our thoughts, or are we controlling our thoughts? So energy of thoughts, when misdirected and uncontrolled, develops lightning, a destructive agent. Yet the same power of lightning can be used to be obedient and serving good. Are our thoughts for gains, or are our thoughts using us for continued loss? That is a good question. Nature has no problem it cannot solve and no troubles that cannot be removed. There are no ifs, ands, or buts in nature. The forces will operate regardless. So, like if a stone is thrown up in the air, it will fall back to the ground. Thoughts in our mind are of the same exactness. Mind is the source and cause of conditions in our lives. Every problem we face has different outcomes, all dependent on how we allow our mind to react to the problem. We have to learn to control our thoughts to determine our lives to unravel as we want the story of our lives to unravel. Like we're writing a book about ourselves. You must build yourself up to success. You will not just fall into it. I'll repeat that. You must build yourself up to success. You will not fall into it. If we desire to gain wealth, we find that it is not in a place or an environment. If it was, all the people in one city would be rich and the people in another city would be poor. Wealth is not the result of saving or of thrift. Wealth is not due to business. For every single business on this planet, there is someone who made it work and someone who didn't make it work. It is something within the mind of people that makes the wealth, and that something in the mind of people is the quality and type of thoughts that he entertains. Take nature again. If you cut a flower, it wilts and dies. as it's been taken away from its source. If a dog jumps from a building, he will injure himself. Instincts warn a dog not to take advantage of nature. Instincts will make a lion be quiet when carefully preying upon his next meal. This instinct must be adhered to. It is an organised method, a constructive method of nature. A disorganised method would be destructive and negative, which I think we're all guilty of. We're all guilty of having a disorganised method going on in our head, and that produces destructive and negative outcomes. Disappointment and failure thrive on indecision. So a person must stalk success or any worthwhile enterprise similar to the lion who stalks his meal. A person must work himself up to gain success. He will not just fall into it. To shout the statements of what you want is not enough. So to say, I will be an area manager, I will be an RVP, that's great, and that's a great start, but it isn't enough. When our ideas are organised, they are under our control. That is, our thoughts are so arranged that they work together as a single unit. Our minds must be controlled in their expressions so that every process of thought will be in an orderly fashion. All action is the result of thought. It determines the conditions of life, and to have better conditions in life, we must first make efforts to organise our thoughts. We wish to gain the best in life, but we do not know how to think correctly. The average person thinks at random. He or she has no clear design in their mind to which they can frame their thoughts. If there was a design, they would not direct their daily efforts towards it. Most of their thinking is beyond control, chaotic and unorganised. This is why disappointment and failure are always near, for they thrive on indecision. We attract only what we think or create. So to achieve success, we must think it, we must work it, and then we must become it. To improve or grow, we must make some effort to rise. So ask yourself, do you do just whatever comes along in your day? Do you plan your day that something definite will be accomplished towards your aim or your ambition? There are two types of people. One set are drifters and the other are builders. If we have any problems, it is because we are not controlling our ideas. Nature has no problems because she is orderly and disciplined. Self-control consists of an organised thought direction. That is, we start out with a well-defined aim or objective. Think towards it continuously, not just for 30 minutes. Plan our time and work so that we are working steadily towards the goal daily. Knowledge and understanding will trump fear and ignorance. What is invisible will become visible. We are what we are according to our state of thinking, and we attract only what we think or create. So just to sum up, just put a couple of pictures in here. So the law of thinking. By changing your conscious thought patterns, your ruling state, you will allow yourself to effectively change the result to what you want. How far a person can go or how great the success a person can have depends on the thinking. In order to achieve big success, a person has to think big. And then key points. Thoughts manifest as feelings which control health of your body as well as your actions. You gravitate to what you dwell on. Think debt and you attract more. Think abundance and you see and attract opportunities that are in harmony with that. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this training. And I will also be doing a training on all of the 11 laws. So that's just one of them. That was the law of thinking.